The first crystal glass shattered before Emily Carter reached the kitchen door. Every face in the ballroom turned toward her. Emily stood between two security guards, still wearing her white bakery jacket. Flour marked one sleeve. A faint streak of pink frosting crossed her wrist. Behind her, the enormous wedding cake rose beneath hundreds of candlelit crystals, covered in delicate white roses and silver sugar vines. In front of her stood Valentina De Luca, the bride who had ordered the cake and then decided that the woman who created it was too embarrassing to be seen beside it. Valentina looked beautiful in a diamond-covered gown. She also looked furious. "I told you to deliver the cake before the guests arrived," Valentina said. "I did not invite you to stand in my ballroom." Emily felt hundreds of eyes studying her body, her inexpensive shoes, and the white jacket that could not hide her full figure. She forced herself to keep her shoulders straight. "Your coordinator asked me to remain until the cake was inspected," Emily replied. One of the lower supports shifted during delivery. "I needed to make sure it was stable." Valentina glanced at the guests surrounding them. The ballroom was filled with politicians, business owners, judges, and men whose names were never printed beside the crimes they controlled. None of them defended Emily. Valentina smiled with elegant cruelty. "The cake is stable. Your presence is not necessary." Emily looked toward the towering creation behind them. She had spent 6 weeks designing it. Every rose had been shaped by hand. Every silver leaf had been painted in the quiet hours before sunrise. The delicate vines climbing the tiers had come from a faded sketch that Valentina had provided with almost no explanation. It was the most personal design Emily had ever created for a stranger. There had been something haunting about it. The shape of the roses, the small silver birds hidden among the leaves, the unfinished heart near the highest tier. Emily had felt as though the woman who drew it had been trying to leave a message. She looked back at Valentina. "I will leave when your coordinator confirms that everything is finished." The smile disappeared from the face of the bride. "You were paid to bake, not to argue." One of the guards tightened his hand around the arm of Emily. The room became painfully quiet. Valentina stepped closer and lowered her voice, but not enough to prevent the nearest guest from hearing. "A woman dressed like you should understand when she does not belong in a room like this." Heat rose across the face of Emily. She had heard words like that before. At school, at Culinary Academy, from wealthy clients who praised her desserts but refused to look directly at her. From the man who had once promised to marry her before deciding that she did not look right beside him in photographs. Emily had survived all of them. She would survive Valentina De Luca. "I belong wherever my work stands," Emily said. A murmur moved through the ballroom. The eyes of Valentina hardened. "Take her out through the kitchen." The guards pulled Emily backward. Her heels slipped against the polished floor. Before she could recover, a voice crossed the ballroom. "Release her." The two guards stopped immediately. A man stood at the entrance beneath a marble staircase. Matteo Ricci had arrived without music or announcement. Yet the atmosphere changed around him as if the entire building had recognized a greater danger. He wore a black suit without a tie. His dark hair was pushed back from a face that revealed nothing. Several men followed behind him, but none walked close enough to suggest equality. Emily knew who he was. Everyone in Boston knew his name, even when they pretended not to. Matteo Ricci controlled shipping companies, hotels, nightclubs, and half the private security contracts along the eastern coast. He was also believed to control several things that had never appeared on legal documents. The men holding Emily released her. Valentina immediately softened her expression. "Matteo, you arrived early." He did not look at her. His attention had fixed on the cake. For the first time, something broke through the cold control of his face. Not surprise, pain. Matteo moved toward the cake slowly. The guest stepped out of his path. He stopped before the second tier. where 3 silver birds rested among white sugar roses. His hand rose, but did not touch them. "Who designed this?" he asked. Valentina approached him. "I selected it for us." Matteo turned his head slightly. "That was not what I asked." The silence sharpened. Valentina glanced at Emily. "She made it." Matteo looked across the ballroom. His eyes met those of Emily. They were darker than she expected. Not empty. Not cruel. Wounded. "Come here," he said. Emily remained where she was. The nearest guest looked shocked that anyone would hesitate after receiving an order from Matteo Ricci. He waited. Emily finally walked toward him. She stopped on the opposite side of the cake. Matteo studied her face as if he were searching for someone else beneath it. "Where did you get this design?" "The bride gave me the original sketch." His gaze moved to Valentina. "Where did you find it?" Valentina gave a delicate laugh. "It was inside an old design book. I thought it was beautiful." "Which book? I do not remember." Matteo stared at her until the laughter faded. Emily looked between them. There was no affection in the way Matteo regarded the woman he was supposed to marry. There was calculation. He turned back to the cake. "The silver birds," he said. "Why did you place the smallest one beneath the leaves?" "It was drawn that way." "The unfinished heart." "Also part of the sketch." Matteo looked at Emily again. His voice became quieter. "Only one person ever drew roses like these." Emily felt the first true movement of fear inside her chest. "Who? My sister?" Valentina reached for his arm. "Matteo. Tonight is not the time." He stepped away before she could touch him. "My sister drew this cake when she was 20 years old. She showed it only to me." The room seemed to lose its air. Emily looked toward the cake. "I did not know. She died 8 years ago," Matteo said. The bride spoke quickly. "It must be a coincidence." Matteo walked toward the silver table where the ceremonial knife rested. Valentina followed him. "We should wait until after dinner. The photographers are not ready." He picked up the knife. Every camera in the ballroom turned toward him. Then Matteo walked past his bride. He stopped in front of Emily. Her pulse became loud enough to fill her ears. "Hold out your hand," he said. "Why?" "Because you created the last thing my sister dreamed about." Emily did not move. Matteo took her wrist carefully. His touch was firm but controlled. He placed the silver knife across her open palm, then closed her fingers around the handle. "Stand beside me." Valentina stared at them. "That is our wedding cake." Matteo looked toward his bride at last. "There is no wedding until I know how you found that design." A wave of shocked whispers spread through the ballroom. Matteo placed his hand over the trembling fingers of Emily and guided the knife into the lowest tier. Together, they cut the first slice. Cameras flashed. The bride stood alone before hundreds of guests while Matteo Ricci cut her wedding cake with the baker she had ordered removed through the kitchen. Emily felt his body close, behind hers. His hand remained over hers. His breath touched her hair. The room watched them as though they had become the center of something none of them understood. Matteo leaned closer. "Do not leave this building without me." Emily turned her head. "Is that a request?" "No." His eyes held hers. "It is the reason you will survive tonight." Before Emily could ask what he meant, the ballroom lights went out. A woman screamed. Matteo pulled Emily against him as the first gunshot shattered the glass behind the cake. His body covered hers. Armed men appeared from the darkness. More shots exploded across the ballroom. Guests dropped beneath tables. Matteo dragged Emily behind the stone cake pedestal as bullets tore through white roses and silver leaves. One of the sugar birds broke apart beside her cheek. Matteo removed a gun from beneath his jacket. "Stay down." Emily caught his wrist. "There are people behind the dessert table." His eyes moved toward the terrified catering staff trapped near the wall. He signaled to his men. 2 bodyguards crossed the ballroom under fire and pulled the workers into the kitchen corridor. Emily looked toward the entrance. 3 masked attackers were moving through the smoke. They were not shooting randomly. They were coming directly toward the cake. One attacker lifted his weapon. Matteo fired once. The man fell. The second attacker reached the cake and tore open the base of the lowest tier. Emily stared. He was not trying to kill the guests. He was searching for something. The attacker ripped apart the support board, then shouted to another man. "It is not here." Matteo heard him. His expression changed. The third attacker fired toward Emily. Matteo pushed her to the floor and shielded her with his body. The bullet struck the stone behind them. His men returned fire. Within moments, the surviving attackers retreated through a broken window. Black vehicles sped away into the night. Emergency lights flickered across the ruined ballroom. Valentina stood near the staircase with her father and several armed guards surrounding her. Her gown remained untouched. Emily looked around at overturned tables, broken crystals, and the cake she had spent weeks creating. Its lowest tier had been torn open. Matteo rose. He kept one hand around the arm of Emily. "Why were they searching the cake?" he asked. "I do not know. Who touched it before delivery? Only me and my assistant." "Did Valentina visit your bakery once?" "When 3 nights ago." "What did she do?" "She inspected the decorations and asked everyone else to leave the room." Matteo looked toward his bride. Valentina was already approaching. "This attack was meant for both families," she said. "My father will handle the investigation." Matteo faced her. "Your father will not touch anything." Enzo De Luca stepped forward. "You are speaking inside my hotel." "Ricci." Matteo smiled without warmth. "Then I will try not to damage it while I discover why armed men were searching inside the cake your daughter commissioned." Valentina looked at Emily. She must have hidden something. Emily felt anger overpower her fear. "I brought the cake you ordered. You brought gunmen into my wedding." Matteo moved between them. "Valentina, go upstairs. You cannot give me orders in front of these people." "I just did." Valentina glanced toward the cameras and guests watching them. Humiliation burned through her expression. She gathered her gown and walked toward the staircase. Enzo followed after giving Matteo a look filled with quiet promise. Emily exhaled slowly. She wanted to leave. She wanted her bakery, her small apartment, and a room where no one carried weapons beneath formal clothes. Matteo looked at the ruined cake. Then his attention returned to her. "You are coming with me." "No." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "You said something was drawn on the original sketch." Emily continued, "I have a copy at my bakery. I will give it to you. And then I am going home." "You will not go home. You do not decide that. Someone fired at you because of this cake. They fired at everyone. They aimed at you twice." Emily remembered the muzzle turning toward her. A cold sensation moved across her skin. Matteo stepped closer. "Until I know what they wanted. You remain under my protection." "I did not ask for your protection. The people who need my protection rarely do." His hand brushed a fragment of sugar from her hair. The gesture was unexpectedly gentle. Then his expression became hard again. 10 minutes later, Emily was inside the back seat of a black vehicle, surrounded by an armed convoy. Matteo sat beside her. Neither of them spoke as the De Luca Hotel disappeared behind them. Emily watched police vehicles pass in the opposite direction. She still felt the pressure of his body covering hers, the steady control of his hand around her wrist, the sound of his voice telling her to stay down. She looked at the faint blood on his collar. "Are you hurt?" "No." "That is blood." "Not mine." The answer should have frightened her. Instead, she found herself studying the calm shape of his hands. "You killed someone tonight." He looked through the window. "He was going to kill you." "That does not answer me." "Yes." His directness unsettled her more than denial would have. "Does it bother you?" he asked. "It should." But Emily looked away. You did not hesitate. No? Would you hesitate now? His gaze moved to her face. Not if someone tried again. The convoy entered a gated estate overlooking the dark Atlantic water. The mansion stood above the cliffs, surrounded by stone walls and security lights. Emily had imagined that a man like Matteo would live among gold and marble. Instead, the house was elegant and severe. Dark wood, gray stone, large windows facing the sea. Almost no personal photographs. He led her through a silent hallway. His men spread across the estate. A gray-haired woman approached them. Her eyes moved from Matteo to Emily, then to the blood on his collar. What happened? The wedding ended early. Matteo replied. The woman looked at Emily. Clearly, Matteo introduced them. Emily. This is Rosa Bellini. She managed this house before I was old enough to know it required managing. Rosa smiled gently. You must be freezing. Only then did Emily realize that she had left her coat at the hotel. Rosa guided her into a sitting room and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Matteo remained near the door, speaking quietly with one of his men. Emily studied him from across the room. He appeared completely controlled. Yet every time someone entered, his eyes checked the hands of that person before anything else. A bodyguard brought a clear evidence sleeve containing the ruined base of the cake. Inside the broken wooden support was a narrow, empty space. Matteo examined it. Someone created a compartment, he said. Emily stood. That was not there when I built the support. Are you certain I made every part myself? The bodyguard placed another item on the table. A tiny piece of black ribbon had been found inside the compartment. Matteo froze. Rosa covered her mouth. Emily looked between them. What is it? Matteo picked up the ribbon. Sophia wore one like this around her wrist. Your sister. He nodded. She began wearing it during the last year of her life. After she died, the ribbon was never found. Emily sat slowly. Why would someone hide it inside my cake? That is what we are going to discover. You are the only living person who has recreated her design. Emily tightened the blanket around herself. There is something you should know. Matteo waited. When I was 19, I worked in a community kitchen in Cambridge. There was a woman named Anna who came every Thursday night. She taught me how to shape flowers from sugar. The control disappeared from his face. Describe her. She had dark hair, green eyes. She was thin and always wore long sleeves. Even during summer, she never spoke about her family. Rosa sat beside Emily. Did she have a scar near her left ear? Emily searched her memory. A small one. Matteo turned toward the windows. Rosa whispered the name. Sophia. Emily stared at them. That woman was your sister. Matteo did not answer immediately. My father arranged for Sophia to marry the son of another family. She refused. A few months before her death, she began disappearing from the estate for several hours every week. I knew her for almost a year, Emily said. She told me her name was Annabelle. Why did she teach you this cake? She said it was the cake she would make if she ever married for love. The words struck Matteo with visible force. Emily continued more softly. She also said that some women were born inside beautiful cages. People admired the cage so much that they never noticed the woman could not breathe. Matteo lowered his eyes. I believe she was meeting a man. She might have been. Did she ever mention a name? No. She stopped coming without saying goodbye. A few weeks later, I saw a report about the daughter of the Ricci family dying in a car fire. The photograph was blurred. I never realized it was her. Matteo turned back toward her. The police said Sophia lost control of her car. You do not believe that. There were no marks from braking. The doors had been locked from the outside. A witness disappeared before he could testify. Emily looked at the black ribbon inside the evidence sleeve. And now someone placed part of her clothing inside my cake. Someone wanted me to see it. Matteo said, Or someone wanted to frighten you? His eyes became colder. They succeeded at neither. A bodyguard entered the room. Sir, there is smoke near the eastern gate. Another man spoke through the radio. Fire at the Carter Bakery. Emily stood so quickly that the blanket fell. What, Mateo was already moving? She followed him through the hall. He turned. Stay here. That is my bakery. It may be a trap. Everything I have is inside that building. Emily tried to pass him. Mateo caught her around the waist. She pushed against his chest. Let me go. You will not walk into a burning building because someone wants to draw you outside. My employee might be there. His grip tightened. Who? Noah. He sometimes stays late to prepare bread. Mateo looked toward one of his men. Call the fire department. Send 2 vehicles. Find Noah Carter. He is not a Carter. His name is Noah Bennett. Mateo relayed the name. Emily stopped fighting, but he did not release her immediately. Her back remained against his chest. His arm rested around her waist. She could feel the controlled strength in his body. You cannot lock me inside this house, she said. Watch me. She turned in his arms. I am not one of your employees. No. I am not part of your family. No. Then stop ordering me as though you own me. Something dark and unreadable passed through his eyes. I do not own you. Good. But until the people hunting, you are dead. I control every door between them and you. Emily slapped him. The sound echoed through the hallway. Every bodyguard became motionless. Mateo slowly turned his face back toward her. Emily lowered her hand. She expected anger. Instead, he looked almost fascinated. Do that again, he said quietly. And make sure you understand what you are starting. Fear moved through her. So did something warmer. I understand that you deserved it. His gaze dropped to her mouth. Perhaps. A radio interrupted them. The bakery was burning. But Noah had been found alive in the apartment above the neighboring store. Mateo released Emily. She turned away before he could see how deeply the moment had shaken her. By morning, photographs from the wedding were everywhere. Matteo Ricci cuts wedding cake with plus-size baker. Mafia wedding ends in gunfire and scandal. Unknown baker replaces DeLuca bride at cake table. Emily sat at a long table in the estate kitchen, staring at the images on the screen of a borrowed telephone. In the most widely shared photograph, Mateo stood behind her with his hand covering hers around the knife. The angle made the moment look intimate, possessive, almost ceremonial. The bride was visible behind them, white with rage. Emily switched off the screen. Rosa placed a cup of coffee beside her. Do not read what strangers write. They are calling me his secret mistress. Rosa poured coffee for herself. People need simple explanations for dangerous men. What is the complicated explanation? Rosa smiled sadly. Mateo does not allow anyone close enough to discover it. Emily looked toward the window. Smoke from her destroyed bakery remained visible above the distant city. The fire department had saved most of the building, but the kitchen and storage rooms were ruined. The original sketch had disappeared. Whoever set the fire had taken it first. Mateo entered the kitchen. He had changed into a black shirt with the sleeves rolled back. His calm expression gave no sign that his wedding had collapsed or that someone had attacked his estate. Your employee is safe, he said. I spoke with him. You should eat. I should go to my bakery. It is under investigation by your men, by people who answer questions correctly. Emily stood. I need to see the damage. Mateo looked at Rosa. Leave us. Rosa carried her coffee from the room without protest. Emily crossed her arms. You cannot keep dismissing people every time you want to intimidate me. I am not trying to intimidate you. Then you need more control over your face. A faint trace of amusement touched his eyes. Valentina claims you designed the hidden compartment? She is lying. I know. How? You would have removed the ribbon when you built it? That sounds dangerously close to trust. It is logic. Emily walked toward the door. Matteo blocked her path. There was a listening device inside your bakery. Her anger faded. Where above your office? How long was it there? At least 3 months. Emily thought about every private conversation she had held beneath that ceiling. Every complaint. Every tear after exhausting nights. Every time she had spoken aloud to the photograph of her mother because the silence had become too heavy. Someone had been listening. Why? We do not know. Her eyes met his. You suspect it began when Valentina hired me. I suspect she hired you because someone had already been watching you. Emily felt suddenly exposed. Matteo stepped closer. You will remain here. For how long? Until this is finished. That could mean anything. It means you are alive when I find the answer. I have a life. Someone burned it last night. The words cut deeper than he intended. Emily turned her face away. Matteo saw it. His voice changed. That was cruel. It was true. Truth can still be cruel. Silence settled between them. His hand rose as if he intended to touch her cheek. He stopped before his fingers reached her skin. Emily noticed the hesitation. So did he. Matteo lowered his hand. You may visit the bakery this afternoon. My men will take you. I do not need an army. You have one anyway. The bakery smelled of smoke, wet wood, and ruined sugar. Emily stood in the center of the kitchen while water dripped from the ceiling. Blackened trays covered the floor. The ovens she had purchased with years of savings were destroyed. A photograph of Emily and her mother had fallen from the office wall. The glass was broken. She knelt and lifted it carefully. Matteo watched from the doorway. His bodyguards searched the surrounding rooms. Emily wiped soot from the face of her mother in the photograph. We opened this place together, she said. Matteo came closer. Where is she? She died 4 years ago. I am sorry. Cancer took everything slowly. By the end, this bakery was the only thing she still remembered clearly. Matteo looked around the ruined kitchen. I will rebuild it. Emily stood. No, it was destroyed because of me. It was destroyed because of the people around you. There is a difference. Let me repair what they damaged. I do not accept gifts with hidden prices. His expression hardened. I do not purchase women. Maybe not intentionally. Matteo stepped closer. You believe I cut that cake with you because I wanted to humiliate Valentina. Did you not? Yes. The honesty surprised her. He continued. I also did it because for 8 years, the only image I had of Sophia was a burning car. Then I entered that room and saw something beautiful that came from her mind. His gaze held hers. You gave that back to me. Emily felt her defenses weaken. She looked away first. A bodyguard called from the office. Matteo and Emily entered. The man held a small metal box that had been hidden beneath a floorboard. Emily stared at it. I have never seen that. The lock had already been broken. Inside was a photograph of Sophia standing outside the community kitchen. Emily stood beside her, younger and uncertain, holding a tray of sugar roses. On the back, Sophia had written a message. For Emily, the woman who taught me that a beautiful life can be made by hand. Emily pressed her fingers to her mouth. Beneath the photograph was a sealed envelope. The front carried the name of Matteo. His hands remained still at his sides. Emily offered it to him. He did not take it. Open it. It is addressed to you. If Sophia left it here, she trusted you. Emily carefully opened the envelope. The letter inside was short. Matteo, if you ever see the cake with the 3 silver birds, then the De Luca family has found Emily. Do not let them use her as they used me. Father promised me to Lorenzo De Luca because he needed the ports. Lorenzo was violent, and Valentina helped him hide it. I found documents proving that Enzo De Luca was selling information about Ricci shipments to our enemies. Gabriel Russo knew. I planned to give everything to you. But Gabriel discovered me. The evidence is hidden inside the place where you first promised to protect me. Forgive me for not trusting you sooner. Sofia. Matteo read the letter without moving. Emily watched something inside him collapse silently. Who is Gabriel Russo? She asked. My godfather. My advisor. The man who taught me how to lead after my father died. Do you trust him? Until this moment. More than anyone alive. A voice spoke behind them. That trust was not misplaced. Gabriel Russo stood in the doorway. He was in his late 50s. Elegantly dressed, with silver at his temples and a calm smile. Several armed men entered behind him. Matteo turned slowly. How long have you been listening? Long enough. Gabriel looked at the letter. Sofia always believed words could save her. Matteo stepped in front of Emily. Did you kill my sister? Gabriel's sigh hid. Your sister would have destroyed an alliance that protected thousands of people. She was emotional, reckless. Did you kill her? I corrected a dangerous mistake. The room became silent. Emily felt the rage in Matteo before she saw it. His shoulders lowered. His voice became almost gentle. You watched me bury an empty coffin. Gabriel did not answer. Matteo took one step forward. You stood beside me. Your grief made you strong. Matteo reached beneath his jacket. The weapons of Gabriel and his men rose immediately. Emily caught the arm of Matteo. There were too many guns. Gabriel looked at her. Sofia should never have involved you. She was trying to protect me. No. She was trying to create a witness no one would suspect. He looked at Matteo. The wedding attack failed because the compartment was empty. I assume Sofia moved the evidence before she died. Matteo held the gaze of Gabriel. You burned the bakery. I needed the sketch and the letter. Then why are you still here? Because the letter mentions another hiding place. Gabriel smiled. And you know where it is. The place where you first promised to protect her. Matteo said nothing. Gabriel gave an order. Take the baker. Two men moved forward. Matteo pulled Emily behind him. Touch hair. And every person carrying your blood will disappear before sunrise. Gabriel studied him with interest. You met her yesterday. That was yesterday. Emily looked at Matteo. There was no performance in his face. Gabriel smiled. Now I understand the photograph at the wedding. It was not only grief. Matteo kept one arm behind him, holding Emily against his back. Gabriel continued. You should have married Valentina. You would have gained the ports, the judges, and the De Luca soldiers. Instead, you embarrassed her for a baker. For Emily, the words came from Matteo without hesitation. Use her name. The room changed. Even Gabriel seemed surprised. Matteo looked toward a broken window beside the office. Emily understood before he moved. He pushed her down. Gunfire erupted. The bodyguards outside shattered the remaining glass and fired into the room. Matteo covered Emily while bullets struck the walls. One of the men of Gabriel fell. Another grabbed Emily by the jacket. She seized a broken metal tray and struck him across the face. Matteo turned and fired. The man collapsed. Gabriel escaped through the rear door. Matteo started after him, then stopped when he saw blood on the sleeve of Emily. He crossed the room and caught her shoulders. Where are you hurt? I am not. There is blood. It belongs to him. His hands moved over her arms, checking for wounds. Emily looked at him. Gabriel is escaping. Let him. You have searched for the truth for 8 years. His fingers tightened around her. You were bleeding. I told you it is not mine. I did not know that. The fear in his voice startled her. He appeared to realize how close he was standing. His hands remained on her body. Their breathing became the only sound between bursts of distant gunfire. Matteo looked at her mouth. Emily could feel the moment changing. His thumb moved once against her sleeve. Then he released her and stepped away. We are leaving. The safe house stood on a stormy section of coastline north of the city. It had no visible road from the ocean and no neighboring buildings. Matteo brought Emily there with Rosa and 4 trusted bodyguards. He no longer knew which men inside his organization belonged to Gabriel. The betrayal had divided the Ricci empire overnight. Some captains remained loyal to Matteo. Others disappeared. Valentina publicly claimed that Matteo had abandoned their wedding because of an unstable baker who had manipulated him with memories of his sister. Photographs of Emily spread across newspapers and television screens. Reporters surrounded the ruined bakery. Strangers sent messages calling her a thief, a liar, and a home destroyer. Matteo confiscated every telephone before Emily could read more. On the second night, she found him standing alone on the balcony. Rain moved across the dark ocean. His shirt was wet. A gun rested on the stone railing beside him. Emily stepped outside. You are going to become ill. He did not turn. Rosa sent you. No. Then go inside. She closed the balcony door behind her. Matteo looked at her. Emily wrapped her arms around herself against the cold. Did Sophia know what you were becoming? His expression hardened. What does that mean? She wrote that you once promised to protect her. I failed. I did not ask if you failed. I asked if she knew you would become this man. What man? The one everyone fears. His gaze returned to the ocean. Our father was killed when I was 27. Sophia died 6 months later. Fear was the only thing that kept the family alive. Did it keep you alive? Yes. That was not my question. He turned toward her. Emily stepped closer. She could see exhaustion beneath his control. Do you ever sleep when necessary? Do you ever answer a personal question without trying to frighten the person asking it? Rarely. She stopped beside him. What did you promise? Sophia. Matteo looked down at his hands. When she was 13, our father arranged a dinner with a family she hated. She hid inside an abandoned church near the harbor. I found her beneath the altar. His voice became distant. She was crying. I told her that no matter what our father demanded, I would never let anyone hurt her. And then he arranged her marriage. I was building power. I believed I needed more time before I could challenge him. Sophia did not have more time. The words were quiet, but they wounded him. Emily saw it. I am sorry. Do not be. Matteo picked up the gun. Regret makes men weak. No. Regret without honesty makes them cruel. He studied her. You are very comfortable judging dangerous men. You are very comfortable pretending pain is power. For several seconds, neither moved. Rain gathered in the hair of Emily. Matteo reached toward her face. His fingers brushed a wet strand away from her cheek. This time, he did not stop. Emily felt the warmth of his hand against her cold skin. His eyes moved over her face as though he were trying to memorize something he intended to deny later. She whispered his name. Matteo. His thumb rested beneath her lower lip. Then the balcony door opened. One of his men stepped outside. We found Gabriel. Matteo removed his hand instantly. Where? At the De Luca casino. The bodyguard looked at Emily. Valentina is with him. Matteo entered the house. Emily followed. A map and several photographs were spread across the dining table. The old abandoned church mentioned by Sophia stood beneath a warehouse owned by the De Luca family. The church had been closed after a fire, but underground tunnels connected it to the harbor. Matteo believed the evidence was hidden there. It was the first place where he had promised to protect Sophia. We go before sunrise, he said. Emily looked at him. I am coming. No. The letter was hidden in my bakery. Sophia may have left instructions only I can understand. You remain here. You said someone inside your organization betrayed you. How do you know this house is safe? Because I am here. You will not be here when you leave. Matteo placed both hands on the table. Emily, you brought me into this. You told Gabriel that my name mattered. Do not treat me as though my voice does not. His jaw tightened. If you enter that church, Gabriel will use you against me. He already knows you care whether I live. The room became still. Emily regretted the words as soon as she spoke them. Matteo walked around the table. He stopped directly in front of her. You think you understand what I feel? No. Good. I understand that you left Gabriel alive because you thought I was hurt. His eyes became dangerous. You understand nothing. Then explain it. He lowered his voice. You are a woman I met beside a cake. Yes. You are involved because Sophia chose you as a witness. Yes. When this is finished, you will return to your bakery. And I will return to my world. Emily felt a sharp ache inside her chest. Of course. She turned away. Matteo caught her wrist. She looked down at his hand. He released her slowly. You will remain here, he said. Emily met his eyes. I will go wherever I choose. She walked upstairs. Before sunrise, the convoy left without her. Emily waited until the sound of the engines disappeared. Then she entered the kitchen. Rosa was standing beside the counter with 2 cups of coffee. He told you to stop me, Emily said. He told me to make certain you remain safe. That is not the same thing. Rosa offered her a cup. Matteo has spent his life confusing protection with control. Emily accepted the coffee. Sophia did that too. Rosa continued. She thought hiding the truth would protect Matteo. Matteo thought building power would protect Sophia. They loved each other very much and understood each other very little. Emily looked toward the dark windows. There is something inside the cake design. Rosa became attentive. The silver birds are not decorations. Sophia used them to mark directions when we worked together. One bird looked left. One looked right. And one looked down. Down where? The unfinished heart. Emily placed her cup aside. The heart was beneath the highest rose. In the original sketch, the rose had 6 petals. But Sophia always made roses with 5. What does that mean? She added the extra petal as a marker. Rosa opened a drawer and removed a set of vehicle keys. Matteo will be furious. He is already furious. Rosa smiled. That is true. The abandoned church stood between dark warehouses near the Boston harbor. Emily and Rosa arrived as gunfire echoed from inside. Smoke drifted through broken stained glass. Rosa remained in the vehicle and contacted the men loyal to Matteo. Emily entered through a side door. The church smelled of salt, dust, and burned wood. Statues stood beneath white sheets. The remains of an altar faced the empty pews. A silver bird had been carved into the floor. It looked downward. Emily heard voices beneath the church. She followed a narrow staircase into the tunnels. The air became colder. At the end of the passage, Matteo stood surrounded by armed men. His hands were empty. Gabriel held a gun against his back. Valentina stood several feet away in a dark coat. Her wedding diamonds still circled her throat. Enzo De Luca was beside her. 3 loyal bodyguards of Matteo were on their knees. Blood marked the shoulder of one man. Valentina touched the face of Matteo. You destroyed our wedding for her. Matteo looked at her with complete indifference. There was never going to be a wedding. Her hands stopped. He continued, I agreed to the engagement because I knew your family killed Sophia. I needed access to your records. Valentina slapped him. He did not react. Enzo stepped forward. Where is the evidence? I do not know. Gabriel pressed the gun harder against Matteo. The letter led you here. The letter led me to an empty church. Valentina looked around. Where is the baker? Safe. The single word carried more emotion than anything else he had said. Emily remained hidden behind the stone wall. She studied the tunnel. 3 silver birds had been carved near the floor. One faced left, one faced right, one pointed toward a broken stone shaped like an unfinished heart. 6 shallow lines surrounded it. Emily understood. She quietly pressed the 6th mark. A section of the wall opened. Inside rested a metal case. Emily removed it. The movement created a faint scraping sound. Gabriel turned. "Who is there?" Emily stepped from the shadows holding the case. Matteo closed his eyes briefly. His anger was immediate. "I told you to stay at the house. You also said I understood nothing." Valentina laughed. "The baker came to rescue the Mafia boss." Emily looked at her. "No. I came to finish the work of a woman you helped murder." The smile vanished. Valentina raised a gun. Matteo moved. But Gabriel struck him across the head. Emily held the case tighter. "Let him go. Bring it here," Gabriel said. Matteo looked at Emily. "Do not." Valentina aimed at his chest. "Bring it to me, or I will kill him." Emily walked forward. The tunnel seemed to narrow around her. Matteo watched every step. Valentina smiled. "You should have left through the kitchen when I told you." Emily stopped several feet away. "You chose me because you knew Sophia taught me to bake." Valentina tilted her head. "Gabriel found the photograph years ago. We knew Sophia had trusted someone at the community kitchen. When your little bakery began gaining attention, we recognized you. Why commission the cake? We needed Matteo, emotionally unstable. A grieving man makes mistakes." Emily looked toward the black ribbon tied around the wrist of Valentina. "You placed the ribbon inside the cake." Valentina glanced down at it. "Sophia wore it the night she died." Matteo stared at the ribbon. Valentina smiled at him. "She begged Gabriel to let her call you. He refused. She cried your name while the car burned." Matteo moved with terrifying speed. He struck the arm of Gabriel aside as the gun fired. The bullet hit the ceiling. The kneeling bodyguards attacked the DeLuca men. Gunfire exploded through the tunnel. Emily dropped behind a stone pillar with the metal case. Valentina followed her. She seized the hair of Emily and dragged her backward. Emily drove her elbow into the stomach of Valentina. The bride screamed and swung the gun. Emily caught her wrist. They struggled near the edge of an underground channel filled with dark seawater. Valentina struck Emily across the face. "You ruined everything." Emily twisted the gun away. Valentina lunged again. A shot rang out. Valentina stopped. Blood spread across the shoulder of her coat. Matteo stood behind her with a gun. "Move away from Emily," he said. Valentina laughed through the pain. "You cannot kill me. My father will burn your city." Matteo looked past her. Enzo DeLuca was lying on the tunnel floor. Gabriel had disappeared. "Your father no longer has a city." Valentina reached for the fallen weapon. Matteo fired again. The bullet struck the stone beside her hand. "The next one will not miss." Valentina looked at Emily. Hatred filled her face. "This woman will never belong in your world." Matteo approached them. "Then I will change my world." Valentina stared at him. Men loyal to Matteo surrounded her and placed her in restraints. Emily remained against the pillar. Her body had begun to shake. Matteo crossed the distance between them. He took the metal case from her hands and placed it on the floor. Then he touched her face where Valentina had struck her. "Why did you come?" "I knew how to read the design." "That is not what I asked." Emily looked into his eyes. "Because I thought you might die." His control broke. Matteo pulled her against him. One arm locked around her waist. The other protected the back of her head. His face pressed against her hair. Emily felt his heart beating violently beneath his shirt. "I told you to stay where I could keep you safe," he whispered. "You left. I was coming back. You did not know that. Neither did you." Matteo drew back enough to look at her. His hands held her face. "I have watched people die without feeling anything. Tonight, I heard your voice inside this tunnel, and I forgot how to breathe. Emily touched the blood near his temple. You are hurt. He ignored it. You cannot do this again. Come after you. Risk yourself for me. You did it at the wedding. That was different. Why? His eyes searched hers. Because losing me would not destroy you. Emily became very still. Mateo seemed to realize what he had admitted. She whispered, would losing me destroy you? He looked away. She touched his jaw and turned his face back. Mateo. His hand covered hers. Yes. The answer was almost soundless. Emily felt tears burning behind her eyes. He lowered his forehead to hers. This is not love, as good men understand it. What is it? It is waking at night because I cannot hear you breathing. It is wanting every door locked and every threat buried. It is seeing another man look at you and deciding whether he deserves to keep his eyes. That sounds terrifying. It is. Emily did not move away. Mateo continued. I tried to call it suspicion, then responsibility, then protection. Every name was a lie. What is the truth? His thumb moved across her cheek. I am already more dependent on your existence than I have ever been on power. Emily breathed slowly. You do not own me. I know. You cannot order me to love you. I know. You cannot lock me inside your house. His mouth almost formed a smile. That one may require negotiation. Emily touched her lips to his. Mateo froze. The kiss was gentle and brief. When she tried to move away, his hand entered her hair. He kissed her with all the control he had denied himself since the balcony. There was nothing gentle in the second kiss. It carried grief, fear, Arden, and years of loneliness turned suddenly toward one woman. Emily held his shirt. The cold tunnel disappeared. For one dangerous moment, the entire world became the pressure of his mouth and the strength of the arms holding her. A gunshot echoed from farther inside the passage. Mateo immediately placed Emily behind him. Gabriel was escaping toward the harbor. Mateo looked at his men. Take Emily outside. She caught his hand. You are going after him. Yes. Do not become the man he created. Mateo looked down at their joined hands. I already am. No. The man Gabriel created would leave me here and choose revenge. The man standing in front of me is afraid to let go of my hand. His fingers tighten. Gabriel killed Sofia. Then find him. Emily moved closer. But come back to me. Mateo pressed his forehead to hers once more. That was the first promise anyone had asked him to make in years. He released her and disappeared into the tunnels. Gabriel reached the harbor before Mateo caught him. Rain swept across the empty docks. A black boat waited beside the pier. Gabriel stood beneath a crane with a gun in one hand and the black ribbon of Sofia wrapped around the other. Mateo approached alone. It is finished. Gabriel, it is never finished. You kill me, and another man takes my place. Perhaps? Gabriel smiled. The baker has changed you. No. Mateo lifted his weapon. She reminded me that I still had a choice. Gabriel fired. Mateo moved behind a steel column. The bullet struck metal. They exchanged shots across the dock. Gabriel ran toward the boat. Mateo followed. A final bullet struck Gabriel in the leg. He fell beside the edge of the pier. Mateo stood above him. Gabriel looked toward the gun. Do it. Mateo thought of Sofia inside the burning car. He thought of 8 years spent feeding hatred until it had become the only emotion he trusted. Then he remembered Emily in the tunnel. Come back to me. Mateo lowered the gun. Gabriel laughed. You are weak. No. Police sirens grew louder beyond the warehouses. Mateo looked down at the man who had raised him. You are going to live long enough to hear every witness describe what you did. You will watch the DeLuca Empire disappear. You will know that Sofia defeated you with a cake design and a woman you considered invisible. Gabriel tried to reach for another weapon. Mateo shot his hand. The gun fell into the water. Mateo walked away as his men arrived. The metal case contained records of illegal shipments, payments to judges, recordings of conversations, and photographs connecting Gabriel and the De Luca family to the murder of Sofia. There was enough evidence to destroy the political protection surrounding both families. Valentina accepted a deal in exchange for testimony against Gabriel. Enzo De Luca died from his wounds before he could reach a hospital. Gabriel was sentenced to spend the rest of his life behind reinforced walls. The Ricci organization survived, but Mateo changed it. Illegal trafficking routes were closed. Businesses connected to Gabriel were dismantled. Men who had harmed women and children under the protection of the family disappeared from positions of power. Some were arrested. Others fled the country. A few were never seen again. Mateo did not become a good man. Emily never asked him to pretend, but he began becoming a man who understood that power did not always require cruelty. 3 months after the wedding, Emily stood inside her rebuilt bakery. The walls had been restored. New ovens filled the kitchen. The original wooden sign made by her mother hung above the front counter. Mateo had paid for none of it. Emily had refused. Instead, he purchased the empty building beside hers and created a culinary training center in the name of Sofia Ricci. Emily agreed to manage it only after the contract placed complete control in her hands. On the first morning of opening, a line of young bakers waited outside. Reporters gathered across the street. Black vehicles surrounded the block. Emily stepped from the kitchen carrying a tray of silver sugar birds. Mateo stood near the window in a black coat. His presence made every security officer remain alert. Emily placed the tray on the counter. "You are frightening the students. They should learn to work under pressure. They are bakers, not soldiers. Both require discipline." Emily smiled despite herself. Mateo watched her. He still looked at her as though every room contained a threat. He still checked the locks before she slept. He still became dangerously quiet whenever another man stood too close. But he had learned to ask before changing her plans. Most of the time, Rosa entered from the training room. "The guests are ready." Emily looked toward the center of the bakery. A small white cake waited on a table. It was covered in silver vines, white roses, and 3 delicate birds. The heart near the top was no longer unfinished. Mateo approached it. "You completed the design." Sofia said it was the cake she would make if she married for love. Emily looked at him. "I thought someone should finish it." Guests entered the bakery. Former students from the community kitchen stood beside members of the Ricci household. No politicians had been invited. No reporters were allowed inside. There were no diamonds, no orchestra, and no tables filled with people pretending not to be afraid. Mateo looked around the room. "What is this?" Emily lifted the silver cake knife. A second attempt. At what? Cutting a cake without gunfire. His gaze moved from the knife to her face. "You gathered everyone for that." "Not everyone." The door opened. A judge entered carrying a small, black book. Mateo became completely still. Emily stepped closer. "You told me that your version of love was terrifying." "It is." "You told me that you could not promise to become a good man." "I cannot." "You told me that losing me would destroy you." His eyes darkened. "That has not changed." Emily placed the knife in his hand. "Then stand beside me." The same words he had spoken in the ballroom now belonged to her. Mateo looked at the judge, then at Rosa, then back at Emily. "You arranged a wedding without telling me. You once placed me inside an armored vehicle without asking permission. That was different." "I agree. This is much more reasonable." A quiet laugh moved through the room. Mateo did not smile. His eyes had become wet. Emily had never seen him cry. He touched her cheek. "Are you certain?" "I am certain that I will never obey you simply because everyone else does." "I know. I am certain that your enemies will continue to frighten me." They will not come close to you. I am certain you will make mistakes. Many. Emily placed her hand over his. And I am certain that loving you will never be simple. Mateo lowered his forehead to hers. Nothing about you has ever been simple. Good. His thumb moved beneath her eye. You should know something before you marry me. What? The bakery closes at 6. Emily narrowed her eyes. Why? Because I purchased every table at the restaurant across the street. That sounds like an order. It is a reservation. For how many people? 2. She laughed. Mateo kissed her before the judge could begin. Everyone applauded. Rosa wiped tears from her face. When the ceremony ended, Mateo and Emily stood before the cake. He placed the knife inside her hand as he had done on the night they met. This time, there was no furious bride behind them. No security guards pulling Emily toward a kitchen entrance. No gunfire waiting inside the darkness. Only the people they had chosen. Mateo placed his hand over hers. Together, they cut through the completed heart. Emily lifted the first slice. She expected him to offer it to her. Instead, Mateo carried it across the room and placed it before the empty chair reserved for Sophia. For the woman who taught Emily how to make a beautiful life by hand, he said. Then he returned to his wife. Outside, black vehicles waited beneath the afternoon sun. The ocean wind moved through the open bakery door. Mateo wrapped his coat around the shoulders of Emily. You are not cold, she said. I know. Then why are you giving me this? Because the first night I saw you, 2 men were taking you through the kitchen as though you should be hidden. His hand settled at her waist. I need the entire city to understand that you will never enter through the back door again. Emily looked up at him. And what will you do when I choose the kitchen? Mateo glanced toward the ovens. I will follow you. Even in that suit, especially in this suit. She smiled and rested her head against his chest. The feared Mafia boss held her in the doorway while the city watched. He had entered her life as a man surrounded by weapons, secrets, and death. She had entered his with flour on her sleeve and frosting on her wrist. Neither had rescued the other completely. Emily had not erased the darkness inside him. Mateo had not taken away every fear she carried. Instead, they had learned how to stand together inside the shadows, without allowing those shadows to decide who they would become. Behind them, the cake of Sophia waited beneath warm lights. Its silver birds pointed no longer toward hidden evidence or underground tunnels. They pointed toward the open door, toward freedom, toward a life that had finally been chosen. Mateo kissed the hair of Emily. Ready to leave, she looked at the bakery, the training center, and the people laughing around the finished cake. Then she looked at the man who had once believed power was the only promise he could keep. Emily took his hand, not through the kitchen. For the first time that day, Mateo smiled. Never again.